Video game maps keep getting bigger and bigger. I mean, obviously people make maps of all sizes, but the average size has got to be going up over time, right? Well, who's on the leaderboard? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 of the biggest video game maps. Starting off with number 10, it's Final Fantasy 15, which clocks in at 700 square miles. Now, when trying to determine how big a video game map is, there's one big roadblock you gotta overcome, and that's that video games lie. They will lie nonstop if they can get away with it, and they usually do. I mean, that's kind of the point. Video games are actually nothing like real life, but they're trying to immerse you and feel like real life, but nothing in them is like real life. So, like, damage that you're doing, how much health you have left, the difficulty, all these things, they're lies. Distance and travel time? Come on. You think they're telling the truth about that? Nah. Final Fantasy XV's game world appears massive if you just look at it on a map. And that's how most articles and YouTube videos determine how big a video game is. They just use the map scale and extrapolate from there. The problem is it does give a false impression, even though it's technically correct, or it seems technically correct at least. I mean, driving around Final Fantasy XV, it does feel like the map is 700 square miles. It takes about a half an hour to drive from one end of the map to the other, and just from the numbers, it seems like the world's probably bigger than Skyrim or Breath of the Wild in terms of straight size. But in reality, it's honestly a lot smaller than most open world games because most of the map can't be explored. It's a series of roads with very little to do in between them. I don't just mean it's empty either. That'll be the case for most of the games on this list, but what I mean is it's literally inaccessible. So while that 700 square mile number does sound impressive, don't let it give you the wrong idea. The map's big, but the explorable amount of the map is relatively small. And in this game's case, the map is exaggerating a bit in the first place. The whole thing's off. That's just how it goes, you know? Most of the time, the numbers are probably going to be off. That's how you get these ridiculous claims like Guild Wars Nightfall somehow has one of the biggest maps of all time, which is just an utterly ridiculous claim to anybody who's played the game. I know I'm getting off track here, but I want to make it crystal clear that finding the biggest game map isn't really an exact science, which is kind of why we started here, and we're working with what's there, as flawed as that information can be. At number 9 is Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which is 781 square miles, 965 if you include the sea. More what we're looking for here, though. According to twinfinite.net, Breakpoint's map covers a massive 781 square miles. This is calculated using the game's waypoint system, which, as we've established, may not be entirely accurate, but if you've spent any time with this game, you know that's pretty big. The entire island is absolutely massive. It can be freely explored on foot or in a vehicle. Getting anywhere, even in a helicopter, feels like it takes forever. Ghost Recon Wildlands, the previous game, was also massive and set in a single country, so this game should be smaller, right? Well, not necessarily, just going by the map. This game's about twice the size of Wildlands. Not quite that much bigger, but it is a lot bigger, especially with the extra islands they've added after release. This is one of those games where you can really feel how big the world is. The scale actually feels relatively realistic compared to most open world action games as well, for good and for bad. It takes an eternity to get anywhere, but some of those mountain views are really impressive. The actual game's kind of a mess, but you can't throw shade about the map size. It's really gigantic. At number 8 is Test Drive Unlimited 2, which is 817 square miles, coming out in 2011 for PS3 and Xbox 360. The Test Drive Unlimited series was one of the first open-world driving games and easily one of the biggest. The sequel is especially huge, 2 massive maps. The first one, 597 square miles. It's the map from the first game, and then plus a new map that's 220 square miles, making it the biggest open-world driving game of all time. And if it's not that, it's at least one of them. Like, want to know how big this game is? It's 30 times bigger than Forza Horizon 4's map. That's insanely big, even for an open world racing game. Of course, it's not the prettiest game anymore. And the variety of environments really, it's not quite there, but they're selling the game on the huge map, and it's really enormous. At number 7, it's The Crew 1 and 2 with 2,000 square miles. Released just a few years later in 2014, The Crew managed to top Test Drive with one of the biggest open world games in a driving game to date. They were really ambitious with this one. Instead of just a city or a country, the game's setting would be the entire continental United States from sea to shining sea. You could literally drive from New York City to Los Angeles continuously. Now, keep in mind, it's a bit of a truncated theme park version of the United States, not one-to-one, but it's huge as far as open world driving games go. If you're going to 65, it takes about an hour and 45 minutes across the map, which is crazy. A lot of standard open world games can be traversed faster when walking, and this is highway speeds in a car the whole time. I mean, if you're a pansy, ha! $65. Compared to reality, it's nothing. And there's definitely a lot of empty space here that's got nothing really particularly interesting going on in it, but there's enough landmarks and noteworthy cities that there's usually something to see. Most open world games these days are less interested in going bigger, instead aiming for more dense and interesting worlds. Even The Crew is going in that direction. The next game's set on the island of Oahu, which might sound like a downgrade, but it's probably going to be a more visually interesting game. That's the idea, at least. At number 6 is Fuel, which is 5,560 square miles. This 2009 racing game comes from Asobo Studios, a French developer who developed, among many other things, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, which we'll be looking at soon enough, and weirdly enough, the Plague Tale series. In terms of size, the strange post-apocalyptic open-world driving game has yet to be beaten in the genre. The map is 5,560 square miles. That's double the Crew's America. Seriously, this single barren wasteland that makes up Fuel is bigger than the entire continental United States, or at least the Crew's version of it. It takes 3 hours to drive from one end of the map to the other going 65, and let me tell you folks, there's not a lot to see. This is one of those games where maybe a little too big for its own good, but there are fans who are drawn into its uniquely strange driving world. I mean, who makes an open world driving game and gives it a Mad Max spin? It's an odd choice, but I guess it explains why there's nobody around. At number 5 is Atlas, a 27,962 square mile map. Anyone remember this one? Sold as the ultimate pirate simulator, a massively multiplayer online game back in 2018. It got a bit of flack for poor performance. Got some shaky gameplay, some not good visuals. I mean, it was kind of a mess. It's still technically in early access, just to give you an impression of how things are going. Maybe it's improved in the last few years, I don't know. All I really care about here is the map size and, ooh, it's big. A crazy person even managed to map it out themselves. Swimming from one end of the map to the other took about 33 hours to do. Probably go a lot faster if they had a ship, but of course, getting access to a ship in the pirate RPG is actually more trouble than it's worth. Of course, the map's split up by a 15x15 grid with 225 regions and 568 islands to explore, so to put it mildly, it's a lot. Also, it's a broken mess. Very big broken mess, though. At number 4 is The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, 80,823 square miles in this game. You can't talk about giant game worlds without bringing up Daggerfall. It's basically required. If I don't do it, I think I get a fine. Anyway, the game came out back in 1996, and it still has one of the biggest game worlds of all time. There's over 15,000 cities, towns, and dungeons to explore. The game world is roughly equivalent to the entire island of Great Britain, and that takes about 70 hours to walk across in real time. To put it mildly, very big. In this case, also, it's pretty empty. Most of those towns, cities, and dungeons are just copy-pasted environments with nothing of note in them, but that doesn't mean it's not impressive, especially for when this game came out. Like, Daggerfall came out in 1996 for MS-DOS. This is Bethesda when their ambition far exceeded their ability. The game is famously a buggy mess, and oh, hey wait, I remember saying that about something recently. Like, there's still bugs in their engine. Which engine was that? The engine that they've been using forever. Not since Daggerfall, thankfully, but still. I think maybe Bethesda needs to get a little bit more realistic about some certain things. But hey, go back to this game. It's a time capsule. The scale of the world is impressive, even if the gameplay's pretty rough. At number 3 is Microsoft Flight Simulator. Yeah, this game's 196 million square miles. Yeah, Great Britain's pretty big, but you know what's bigger? The world. Yeah, unlike The Crew, which said, hey, we're gonna recreate the United States, and then did it all theme park-like, Flight Simulator 2020 was like, we're doing the entire Earth. We're really doing the entire Earth! You don't think we're gonna do the real entire Earth? We're gonna do the real entire Earth! Using topographical data from Bing Maps and AI generation, the game attempts to accurately recreate the entire world. In many places, it looks amazing, especially the spots where they put a lot of focus. Anywhere that's gotten region-specific updates both looks incredible and highly accurate to the region. The only downside is that they're using Bing Maps instead of something more up-to-date like Google Maps, but that's really only going to bother people who want to check out their hometown and notice construction from a few years ago. Not that big of a deal. In areas where you don't have a lot of map data, the accuracy's not super great, but the size and scale of the world is absolutely accurate. So let me put this into perspective here. It took a guy 39 and a half hours to fly from the North Pole to the South Pole. That's nearly 2 days of non-stop flight, which goes without saying, but that's a long time. I mean, it can't get much bigger than this, right? Well, no, not if we're talking about Earth-based games, but hey, there are space-based games, aren't there? Yeah. Moving on to number 2, it's Starfield. Rhymes with Garfield. Meet me in the lasagna system, everybody. There's 1,000 planets and 100 star systems. Starfield just came out, so at the moment I don't know the exact numbers, but I can say pre-release, we know there's 1,000 planets and 100 star systems. There's a lot of planets. Just one of them is Earth, and while the scale isn't 1-to-1 like in Flight Simulator, it's still very big and takes a very long time to traverse, and that's one of 100. 1,000. There's 1,000 planets. I don't know, I haven't been everywhere in this game, and I'm probably not gonna go everywhere in this game. No matter how you compare it though, either by galactic map size, which makes this game bigger than basically anything, or by comparing traversable area on foot, I think Starfield's probably one of the biggest games out there. There are so many planets, and many of them are gas giants that you can't explore. A good chunk of them you can explore. Most of them do feel like procedurally generated lumps of land, and the actual handcrafted area of the game isn't nearly as big, but we're just talking about map size. We're not talking about anything else. All I can say is that it's huge. Starfield is Bethesda's biggest game by a lot, and that's a pretty impressive accomplishment, even if there isn't all that much to do in space. It's not like real space is going to be a lot different. Not like you go to Mars and it's handcrafted. It's kind of procedurally generated by time. It's not code that did it, but maybe it is. Who knows? It's probably not. And finally, at number 1, it's Elite Dangerous, 13.8 cubic light years, or 400 billion star systems. Starfield's impressive, but Elite Dangerous takes it to another level. Not just content with 1,000 star systems, this game contains a 1-to-1 scale simulation of the entire Milky Way galaxy. That's 400 billion star systems modeled using real galactic charts. Now, Elite Dangerous isn't like most of the other games on this list. You're mostly spending your time in this game in space, but there are some planets that can be landed on and explored.
Now the power's back online, they've come to investigate.
It's just not like Starfield, where most planets you can get out and walk around. Still, the size of the galaxy is just staggering. There's an entire class dedicated just to exploring, but even still, only a small portion of the galaxy has been explored. As of 2022, 0.05% of the entire galaxy has been charted in the game. It's all there in theory, but in reality, it would take thousands of years to fully map out the Milky Way in the game, and I'm not even talking about doing it in real life. So this list has gone from games where you can jump across the map in less than an hour to a game where you need probably 100 lifetimes. So there. Unless somebody can go ahead and map dark space and all the other galaxies we're aware of, I don't think anybody's going to top this anytime soon. I do have a quick bonus for you, and it's probably the most obvious one given the last one. It's No Man's Sky. Obviously, we're going to talk about this because theoretically, it's huge. It's possible for the game to generate a mind-boggling 18 quintillion planets, or 18 millions. It has the potential to be gigantic, but I think the procedural generation disqualifies it from being the real biggest game map, because there's no actual map. It's just like all procedurally generated. Elite Dangerous is, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of procedural generation, but at least it specifically tries to simulate the Milky Way. No Man's Sky doesn't do that. The funny thing about this game is it has possibly more planets than any other game, but the actual galaxies are smaller, and the distance between planets also feels kind of wrong. Starfield and Elite both try to make the travel times feel real within their fiction. Like, planets are realistically spaced apart, but not, I mean, necessarily in No Man's Sky. It's kind of more about convenience than realism, which is a fine direction to go in, but it does affect how I view the map. I don't know, it's a tough one to call, so I'm just gonna leave it up to you guys. Does No Man's Sky have the biggest video game map, or should it not count? You tell me. I seriously don't know. I'll meet you in the comments, though. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on gameranx.